This is a one-of-a-kind story of transformation. A man who calls East Tennessee home went from serving time in prison to overseeing the largest prison system in the world, from federal inmate to federal officer. How? Here's the answer from Josh Smith. When I say Josh Smith, Deputy Director of the Bureau of Federal Prisons, what runs through your mind?
What a story. You know, what a story. It's unbelievable for me, and I've lived it.
Raised by a single mom, Josh Smith faced an abusive stepfather, bolted from home, and stepped behind bars for the first time, barely a teenager.
By the time I was 13, they took me to visit my first juvenile facility because I'd ran away a few times.
The wrong crowd, bad decisions on repeat. Josh recalls catching 10 felonies for burglary and theft by age 16.
I mean, I was the kid that you didn't want living in your neighborhood.
Trouble spiraled, and by age 21, he faced a 5-year prison sentence for a drug-selling conspiracy centered on marijuana and cocaine.
You know, I always make the joke, the federal government did not like my entrepreneurial abilities, and they were really good. I went to a federal prison at the age of 21. I always say I was just a young punk drug dealing kid. I mean, no perception of really what life was about.
But inside the prison walls in Manchester, Kentucky, Josh Smith saw his life change twice. First, the high school dropout lucked into sharing cells with white-collar CEOs and bankers.
I was the beneficiary of those types of people. I learned banking and credit and finance, real estate. All of that started with the mentorship inside of prison.
His second transformation, newfound faith, what Josh calls an experience with God, an epiphany alone in his cell.
But it was there that really began to shift with me to say, okay, what kind of person do I want to be? Who am I called to be in this world?
You walk out of prison, and what's next?
Yeah, well, I had to beg for a $6 an hour job.
He saved, built credit, and within 15 years grew a waterproofing business into a multi-million-dollar company, taking jobs few others wanted, and yes, a few former felons. And how many employees in that time?
Close to 200 employees. Yeah,
when you sold?
When I sold. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's such a story in and of itself. And what made you sell?
Yeah, I had zero plans to sell. Our business wasn't for sale, but this really allowed, you know, my wife and I to say, hey, let's make a difference in this world. What kind of, my mission statement, my personal why is to leave a footprint on this earth that won't soon be erased. And I just said, this allows us to be able to make that footprint even deeper. And so we decided to sell. Housing is a really big issue with people getting out. Jobs are a really big issue with someone getting out of prison.
In 2019, Josh planted a deeper footprint, establishing the nonprofit Fourth Purpose Foundation, mentoring inmates with job and life lessons Josh benefited from before he walked out of prison.
Maybe I can stop making excuses and I can start making some changes in my life, and my life will be better for it now. Most of them are going to be our neighbor again one day. In the federal system, it's 97%. Yet, like in this state, you've got a recidivism rate that hovers around 30% of the state DOC. In our federal system, it's 44% when I took on the job. I couldn't be more excited about where I'm at in life now.
On the bio page of his Prison Reform Foundation, the Josh Smith story ends there. New charity, growing family.
Hey, Josh, it's Bill Lee. Hey, call me at this number when you get a minute. I've got a question for you.
But then in January 2021, he answered a life-changing phone call from the governor of Tennessee. Bill Lee broke the news of a full presidential pardon for Josh Smith. Crimes forgiven. Voting rights, hunting with his son, and other freedoms restored. Tears flowed then and now.
I mean, he had to listen, I don't know how long. I mean, how many years that, 5 or 6 years ago, you can see still today it's hard for me to even, I mean, it was a moment in my life. People ask me, did you pay the president? I never met the president, never knew the president. I've never supported the president financially, nothing. It was mercy and grace. He had heard about the work that I've done. People kept telling the president, hey, this guy is making a difference. And so it was the president showed me mercy and grace and gave me a pardon.
5 years after the pardon, Josh Smith did meet the president, who less than a year ago appointed the former inmate to oversee reform across the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah, well, you can imagine the inmates as I walk in, and I can hold them accountable differently than most others that wear a badge as I do.
But public skepticism about the leap from felon to federal officer surfaced quickly within the ranks of corrections officers.
And that's a very legitimate thing, right? That's why I've spent, it's a record amount. I've been to 64 facilities in the first year.
And the second in command of the Bureau of Prisons doesn't hide his past. The signature challenge coin he hands out holds his name, title, and embedded on the edge, the inmate number he was assigned 30 years ago.
The old inmate number is 15133-075.
Never forget it.
You will never forget that number. Most of them didn't understand how much work I've done in corrections with correctional staff over the last, multiple years. So they're beginning to see some of the benefits of that.
If you met a young Josh Smith, you would put his chances of earning his new job title at 0. By his teens and 20s, it would likely have been less than 0.
For me right now, it's a real pleasure to be able to serve in this capacity in a way that can really make significant change.
Now age 51, the Josh Smith story is an original, but he is devoted to helping others repeat his redemption.
I talk to inmates all the time before this job and now this job. And what I let them know is I tell them to look in the mirror every morning, and you're looking at the very person, the reason that's holding you back. You can't blame your past. I've got plenty of past I can blame. Can't blame your childhood, your parents, nobody else. Today's the day to take responsibility for you.
If you'd like to watch our full 30-minute interview with Josh Smith, it's online at WBIR.com.